Morning. Born last night. You can see its umbilical cord still quite wobbly, as is its time. And our on the scene as well. That young baby wildebeest taking what probably aren't its first sips of milk, but look at them jumping for joy in the background. How cool is this? Now you'll notice everyone's looking a little bit damp and soggy. I almost said samp and doggy. And it's a... My name's Scott Dyson. I'm teamed up with Senzo on camera. We've got our rain covers on, but like I said, it looks like the weather is clearing. There's some blue sky poking through the clouds, and hopefully we're not going to get too wet this morning. So I'm happy that the weather's changed, and it's very, very needed that we got this rain, because the sands was looking quite dry and desperate really after a couple of weeks of no rain. So even though we didn't get a huge amount, at least it's something for the vegetation, because at the moment you can see there's quite a yellow hue to this open plain in front of us, and ordinarily at this time of year it should be far, far greener. There should be a blanket of green grass ordinarily at this time of year. Jumping for joy, bucking and bronking. You can tell that they are quite happy, it appears, that they've survived the night, and probably also the fact that there has been some rain. Now, there have been lots of wonderful scenes this morning and lots of good news about this rain, much needed rain, but there is some sad news regarding this herd of wildebeest, because it seems like one of the youngsters has been killed. Yesterday there were 4, possibly a fifth that was given birth to. I think some of you guys saw on the dam cam one of these wildebeest giving birth yesterday afternoon sometime, or yesterday morning, which actually in theory means there should be 6, because this other baby that we've seen this morning is quite wobbly, but there's only 4 around. So either 1 or 2 wildebeest got killed last night. It's hard to be exactly certain, but quite sad that one of these cute youngsters has already been claimed by the predators. Now, we did come out to enjoy a beautiful starry evening and a relatively new moon yesterday evening after dinner, and oh, this is the coolest thing, watching these guys run about. And while we parked out in the quarantine clearings, there were 6 hyena lurking around, and one of the wildebeest actually chased them once or twice. I'm guessing it was the dominant bull. So who knows, maybe it was the hyena that worked this herd until they eventually caught one of the youngsters. Hard to be certain. Their tracks also indicated that they came through our camp last night looking for more scraps. Since let's have a quick look at the zebra at 1 o'clock. I mean, nothing too serious is going on here, but it could escalate. Now, zebras do enjoy biting and kicking one another from time to time. I'm not too sure if these are 2 stallions. I'm guessing they could be. They're quite difficult animals to sex. Let's see what happens here. That one in the front is going to unleash a big backwards kick if that other one keeps nibbling its ankles, I'm guessing. And earlier on, you may have heard me go, oh, I was kind of often kill their own species, rogue stallions that are trying to disrupt a dominant male and possibly steal his harem of ladies. Oh, some impala also on the scene. And everyone seems to have a bit of a spring in their step this morning, and I'm guessing it's because they know that this little bit of rain that we've got is going to be useful for them in getting some tasty food. Keep coming straight towards us. Oh. What a scene. Well, hello to Lady Starfire and your 16-year-old child. It's wonderful to have both of you with us, and I'm very happy to hear that you guys absolutely loved that sighting that Tristan had yesterday of Tingana, Shadow, and Not Barbara. And it was an incredible scene. I was lucky enough to be out there as well with Conrad and Alicia, two of our crew members that ordinarily don't get to spend too much time out in the field. And it really was an incredible scene. Hopefully we'll be able to find some sign of either of those guys this morning. It's unlikely that they'll still be together, but we may get lucky. Now, big apologies for our lack of contribution to yesterday afternoon Sunset Safari. We did a major overhaul of some cables and wires that helped this broadcast get to you guys with Conrad and Jared, two of our tech wizards. And we started basically after morning drive, and we overhauled the tech room until about 6:30 in the evening. So we had a busy day, and it's definitely going to be useful in ensuring that we have more slick broadcast to you, and if there are ever gremlins, it's going to be easier to find them and banish them now. Well, these zebras certainly are putting on a show, perfectly framed by a marula tree in front of us, at least temporarily. No, they're not quite perfectly framed. Let's have a look now. Sorry, Sens, it's difficult to know where to actually look, but I want to have a quick look at these wildebeests now. Rubbing themselves around in a little sandy patch here. And as you can see, that youngster's following in her mom's or his mom's footsteps. I'm not sure if it's a young male. How cool is this? There you go, the zebra in the background again. It's all happening here. We've got off to a wonderful start this morning, and the rain is beginning to fall a little bit harder now. You can possibly hear the pitter-patter on the roof. So maybe my predictions were wrong, and we may have to kind of put a few extra flaps down as we continue to drive, but we're not going to go anywhere just yet. This scene is too good to leave. Now, it's not just myself out this morning. If any of you are joining for the first time this morning, it's very important that you know that this is a live safari. We are coming to you 102% live. No hidden agendas, and if you'd like to ask any questions, you can do so by popping comments in the boxes on YouTube or sending a tweet to #SafariLive. So you've got a few options to communicate with us. Just going to try and swivel the vehicle ever so slightly, because the rain is coming in at a slight angle. So hopefully, if I park like, oh no, I'm getting confused here. I'm not parking the right way. It's kind of coming from our right to our left, so if we can try and get the back of the car to take most of the hit, then we shouldn't get too wet. And I'm so happy that a lot of you are commenting on what a joyful start this is to the morning. Incredible scenes with all these animals running around and playing. And oh, let's get ready for the wildebeest. They're coming in at high speed from the right. Oh no, they've just changed direction sadly, but we'll keep an eye on them. There was two wildebeest that were kind of heading in this direction but then veered off at the last second. But there's a lot of action unfolding here, and isn't this wonderful? Oh, there's Mom taking its baby for a little bit of a morning jog. How cool when they come running straight down the barrel towards us like this. Keep coming. And another thing that's important to remember about this morning safari is, I'm not sure if I said, it's not just myself out, but Tristan is also out, and I believe Taylor in the Mara. So there's another two people driving about. Two of us are in South Africa, one of which is in Kenya, and we are looking forward to what the morning holds. Hopefully there's some sunny weather in Kenya, and then you'll get to not only enjoy a very different ecosystem up there, but also some different weather. But this is quite a special scene with all these big marula trees and a large amount of general game all running about doing their thing. Oh no, we've sprung a leak. This is not ideal. So I'm not sure how, but there's some water leaking from kind of the sensor of our roof. It's not ideal. So we're going to have to do something about that fairly urgently. I don't know if we're going to be able to do anything about it now though, but it would be nice if I could have some time to think about this before we sink our ship. Over to Tristan, he's out and about. Hopefully he doesn't have a leak like we do.
I don't, Scotty. At this stage, I feel like we're doing okay. Fergus, are we doing okay? Yes, so far so good. Yes, it all looks very good. Unfortunately for those Impala, though, they have nowhere to go and shelter, so we're not too far from where Scotty is. You can see a wildebeest in the background. Impala's being rained upon, and it is all of a sudden the rain has started again. I don't know where it's come from. It looked like it was clearing really nicely. Anyway, my name is Tristan. On camera today, as I mentioned just now, I have a Fergus. Here we go. Wait for it, Fergus. Oh, there we go. So there's once again the two of us, and it is, like Scotty mentioned, a very damp, wet morning out here. So hopefully it'll still mean a busy one. Yesterday morning was still a high from seeing those three leopards together. So we can try to see if we can follow up on more of our spotted cats this morning. I think it's going to be tough though, with all the rain. Probably has washed a lot of the tracks away. Nonetheless though, we will try, and if anybody did see anything on the dam cam, remember #SafariLive or YouTube chat if you saw something. Right, Fergus, should we brave the storm and start driving? Yes, I think so. Let's try. We're going to try and make sure that we stay as dry as possible and keep the equipment dry as possible, because we were a little bit tardy this morning, and not because we wanted to be. Unfortunately, it seems as though our little presenter monitor got a bit damp at some point. Not last night, it was prior to that, and it ceased to exist. So I've quickly gone and repurposed, well, not me, the tech geniuses that we have in the form of Jared and Conrad have quickly come and repurposed Jigger's monitor. So James is going to be super thrilled about that, and has come and put it on to Rusty. You can see it's also got a fancy new cover. Look at that. Isn't that very nice? Fancy. Inclement weather is exactly what we're going to experience. If you have a look briefly in front of me here, you can see a lovely nice white blanket of rain. So it should be a nice damp morning this morning. I think we're going to get a little wet, although it's looking quite nice and fresh down in the south. There's a bit of sunshine coming through the clouds, and so I'm hoping that that is what we start to get a little bit later. But isn't that pretty, with the beautiful colors coming through the stormy clouds? It looks very nice. Now, just to find a leopard silhouetted against that would be quite lovely. It seems like the animals are all full of beans though this morning. I believe Scotty's wildebeest were running around everywhere. The impalas are all over the place as well. They're all running every which way, back and forth, and really trying to We're in South Africa, down in the Sabi Sand Game Reserve, and unfortunately there is no wildebeest migration down here. What you're alluding to is the Masai Mara. Now the Masai Mara team will be with us. Oh, sorry, Fergus, I just saw a Wahlberg's eagle. Now the Masai Mara team, who will join us a little bit later, is where there is the Great Migration. And so no, it hasn't come back yet on that side. It normally comes back about sort of May next year is when it should start arriving, a little bit into June. So it'll be a while still. It's still going to be in Tanzania for now. But in this tree over here there is a Wahlberg's eagle. Now it looks like our pale form individual. Oh no, this roof, sorry Fergus, let me go back further. Hopefully it will stay there. Sorry, let's see, is it going to work? Hold on, Ferg. Hey, there we go. Lottery. Woohoo. So the roof unfortunately does hinder birding somewhat, but that is a pale form Wahlberg's, and it just kind of flew in underneath the canopy, probably to try and stay dry. It's looking a bit bedraggled, isn't it? It's all kind of damp and wet. But these guys will be out in force this morning. In fact, I think we're going to see a number of different birds of prey, and even different birds that eat insects, like woodland kingfisher, cuckoos. We'll see maybe amur falcons, these guys, lesser spotted eagles. And the reason why I say that is there's a number of winged allets that are out at the moment. So there's these termites, they're reproductive termites that get wings and then fly around. They're out at the moment. This morning they were everywhere, and so I'm sure these guys are all going to be trying to take advantage of that protein-rich snack that is very easy to catch. So I would expect to see quite a few of them out and about this morning. Even though it's wet and not ideal conditions, it is not bad conditions for hunting of allets. They don't exactly fly very fast, and a lot of them are on the ground, so they can just come down and pick them up off the ground as they go along. Kobe, who's 15 years old, you're wondering how much rain is expected to fall today. I have absolutely no idea, to be honest. I didn't check the weather forecast this morning. It was a marathon day of tech yesterday, so we had a few gremlins that we had to sort out, and so we basically wired our entire system that broadcasts to all of you. Now, that might not sound like much, but it was a lot. It took 9 hours of work between 4 of us to try and get it right and try and get it done in time for drive, but unfortunately we only managed to get it done this morning, or last night. But so I haven't checked, to be honest. We went to bed all quite fatigued last night, so everybody was a bit tired. But maybe Nikki in Final Control can have a little look for me, and then I can update you. I know that so far this morning the grand total of 2 millimeters of rain has fallen so far, which is obviously very little, but this shower that we've had now just before we started drive, I would imagine there's a few more millimeters that have been added to that. So it's not really much just yet, but it is nice, good rain. It's that soft soaking rain, which is great for vegetation to grow, just not so good for filling up our dams and various other things that we need for, well, we need the rain to do. So we need a big storm at some point as well, just to fill up places like Gowrie Dam, Buffelshoek Dam, Twin Dams, Treehouse, and then we can have this soft rain that just promotes plant growth as much as possible. But it's welcome after yesterday's excessive heat and even last night's excessive heat. Right, well, I'm going to move on and try and see what else I can find. Now my Wahlberg's eagle has flown away and left us behind, but I believe Scotty, who's also following something that, well, left a sign behind.
Welcome back, everyone. So we have found some lion tracks, and maybe it was lion that were responsible for catching and killing at least 1 or possibly 2 of the young wildebeest from our residence herd. I can just see 4 toes here. It's hard to tell how fresh it is, but I'm guessing it is quite fresh because of the rain that we're experiencing. Difficult to tell in the substrates. It has been rained on a little bit, but definitely from kind of, I'd say, the earlyish hours of the morning, because with the amount of rain that we've been getting, the tracks would have been kind of not washed away, but their clarity would have been reduced from each little drop of rain. It looks like 1 male, and the tracks are heading down kind of a central road on Quarantine. They're heading south, and hopefully the lions are still on our property, and we're going to do our best to try and follow these tracks and see where they end up. Tricky business in this flat light to follow tracks. It would be far easier if it was a little bit sunny, but there's a little bit of light poking through. And another thing that's, I guess, that's important to remember is basically that depending on the sandy substrate, sometimes rain actually impedes our ability to see tracks, and it actually makes the ground a little bit harder. It makes all the sand kind of combine, and once an animal stands on it, it may not leave a clear track. On the flip side, there's certain kind of more soft, muddy soils that will more happily receive a track. Okay, the tracks head off here, taking a shortcut. So I'm not going to show them to you, I'm just going to keep trying to track it, but it would have taken a little shortcut through here to get onto this road, and I'm guessing it may well continue down this road. What's going on here? There's an Inyala that's looking quite alert here. And while we try and work out what's going on and where exactly these tracks go, we are going to send you back to Tristan.
Well, you can see we've got some animals that are absolutely loving this weather. So there's some terrapins that are just cruising around in the shallows of Gowrie Dam. Not that there is any deep sections of Gowrie Dam at the moment. It is looking quite dire for this time of the year, to be honest. There is so little water in here. I would have thought we've had more than this. It's been a while since I've actually really paid attention at the dam. I kind of drive past it and never really actually think about it, but there is very little water left there. We're going to need a lot more rain in order to fill this whole section. And it's amazing because I remember in 2012 when this whole area was water all the way back towards the lodge and up the drainage in the background there. So you can see there's the camp and those dead trees. That was all water all the way down there. Hippos used to sit by those dead trees on the edges, and then all of the way around was just this massive beautiful dam. And now you can see it is just barren. So a long way to go to fill up all of these areas. I think we're going to be in for... We don't get a lot more rain in the February or January-February season. It's really going to be quite tough for a lot of the animals. It needs a lot more to fall to fill these places up, but it'll just take one big storm, so one storm of 50-60 millimeters, and we'll end up with all of these dams looking a lot healthier than what they are now. But that is drying rapidly, and with heat like we had yesterday, it's going to cause a lot of evaporation. So we're going to need a lot more rain to fall for that to be filling up. What have you spotted? A terrapin there, Fergus. Like I say, they're very happy with life. Being in the muddy water, there's not much that they have to worry about, and particularly in a day like today, because it's nice and rainy, which means a lot of the birds are not going to be out hunting, so all those little baby terrapins will be having a good time. And I'm wondering if we're going to see a leopard in this area at some point trying to grab these terrapins as it starts to dry, because there's a number of terrapins in there and they don't really have much space to move. So if Hosanna or maybe Tumba, one of those youngsters, is around, they might take advantage. Although I feel like both of them have graduated away from hunting terrapins and are trying rather to go after slightly more tasty meal options like impalas and dike and the rest. Let's carry on though and see if we can find anything. We're going to go past Central just to see if there's any sign of tracks for Thandi close to that little pipe area where we saw her last with the cub. See if she's spent any time in that area. I know that the guys yesterday did try and follow up and they had no luck at all. So everybody was looking for her, but no kind of luck in terms of where the den is. They've checked both sides, so I wonder if she sneakily hasn't just moved it somewhere else, but we'll just try and see. We'll kind of have a look around. I'm sure if she has gone to that den, even though it's rained, we'll see some nice tracks in the sand there. The problem is that you've got to drive down towards the kind of actual den itself and the pipes on the road to see anything, which is also not really ideal, although if she is there we'll pick it up pretty fast. And just quickly checking for any tracks. This is a highway at night, so a few little hyena tracks on the road here, and you'll find that Central, for some reason, the animals absolutely love it. Our lions particularly walk this. Tingana walks it a lot, so it's always worth just double checking and seeing how it goes and seeing if there are any tracks in this area. But it seems all clear at this stage. It doesn't seem like any big lions have walked here. It is beautiful this morning though. Even though it's raining, it is very pretty out here. So Bobby, you're wondering what the difference is between a terrapin and a turtle. Now Bobby, it depends where you come from, but if you're from the United States, then you'll refer to most of your aquatic species as turtles, but the actual definition is that we have turtles are animals that live in water all the time, so they are constantly in water. And so we have found our first leopard of the morning, which is amazing. So for those of you who didn't see it, right here in the road is a little leopard tortoise, which is very cool. So it's just in the little main section. So Nikki did you get excited, Nikki? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you all excited. I'll get back to the terrapins now, but that's a little leopard tortoise, and we know it's a leopard tortoise with that big dome-shaped shell and that beautiful coloration, and that guy's on the move. You can see some of those allets as well flying around while it's walking, but you A bit doddery this morning, this one, isn't it? It looks as though it's had a few too many at the pub last night. It kind of looks a bit, yeah. It's on the way home from the pub. The wife's not going to be happy if it is a male and he's gotten up to no good. Oh, this is very cool. Look on the back there. There's another species of tortoise. So I don't think I've had the two species of tortoise together in a long time. It's a highway. It's a tortoise migration. So there's the Speaks hingeback tortoise. Now you can see very clearly the difference between the two tortoises. That one, look at how flat that shell is, not nearly as colourful than what we saw with the leopard tortoise that was walking away and kind of moving off into the distance. That one it's so quick. I know, Fergus, I'm surprised you can keep up with them. They're both migrating at a rate of knots. Is this harder than filming cheetah in the Mara hunting? Concentrating, otherwise you're going to lose focus and lose the tortoise at its rate of knots it's moving. But that's so cool. I haven't seen the two of them together in a long time, so that was very, very special to see. But while we're talking about tortoises and terrapins and turtles and various other things, so turtles are animals that live in water all the time. They exist in water, and the only time they come out is to nest and to lay their eggs, and then they go back into water. But pretty much 99% of their life is inside water. A tortoise, on the other hand, is 99% on land. You'll find them sometimes going into water to go and drink. They don't do it often, but sometimes, and also just sometimes to cool themselves down. And then a terrapin lies in between. So a terrapin is an animal that is in water a lot, but is also spending time on land. So if you go to one of these dams during the day, you'll find the terrapins out on the banks, and they'll sit and sun themselves and move around there. So they're both equally at home in water and on land, whereas tortoises are land animals and turtles are only water. So that's an idea of just how it kind of works and the rough sort of way that you can think about it. But there goes our leopard tortoise racing and disappearing behind the bush. I'm so glad we caught that before it disappeared. It was very, very brief, but well done, Fergus. Your camera work was impeccable in that. Not easy to track a leopard tortoise as it crosses the road. Bofox, you're wondering if this is live. Well, it is most certainly live. We are, as Brent Leo Smith would say, 100% live, and that means that you can ask us lots of questions. So I hope that you will, Bo, and I hope that you'll enjoy the excursion through the bush, and welcome to the Safari Live family if you are watching, and I hope that, like I say, that you enjoy. We are on the lookout for a leopard and its cub. That is what we are doing, Bo. So if you like seeing leopards and you want to see what a leopard is like in the wild live, then stay with us. We are going to try and find one now. This is what we're going to try and do. So we're just coming up to the little holes in the pipe that I would have assume maybe Thandi is in. If Rusty didn't squeak so much, we could be a little bit more incognito, but Rusty is in full squeak mode at the moment, so no incognito approach for us. See anything, Ferg? No, just quickly having a look to see. Just want to have a look if there's any tracks here. I also want to approach slowly, because if she is here, we don't want to give her a fright and cause her to panic and run away with the cub. But I can see lots of tracks going in and out. Now I don't want to park on top here. Nothing too fresh though, so it doesn't look like any fresh tracks at all. It all looks like from the day that I saw her here. So I think she's gone back. I'll go and check the other old den and see if she's there in case, but definitely nothing fresh going into that pipe. There's just the tracks from when I saw her going there, which was 2 days ago. That's when they were there, and I can see because there's a bird that's been moving around there. Now any bird that moves around in front of a leopard would not be a very, very clever bird, and also we would find if there was fresh tracks and the Thandi was there, as well as, oh, hello, I've got an alert to the face. Apparently they taste like peanut butter, so that won't be the worst thing to go into your mouth, rather than flies and various other things that we have had in our mouths. I think Taylor once had a dung beetle. But back to our leopard, if she was there, then we would find a situation where the tracks would have been on top of those bird tracks. Remember, it's early in the morning, so birds have not been moving around during the night. That's from yesterday, which means that there's no leopard that's moved in and out of there since yesterday. So it's probably in all likelihood means that she's not in this particular section at the moment. I wonder where else she could be going. What are you alarm calling at? There's some birds that are making a bit of a noise, so I'm just checking nicely and looking. I also want to check on all the tracks that are on the road. There's a lot of hyena movement going up and down, so it's probably better that she doesn't have her den in this area, because hyenas will be quite dangerous. It does smell fresh out here, Nikki. It smells like a wondrous African morning. It's always great when you have a bit of rain because it kind of awakens everything. But isn't that pretty? You can see the golden light just coming through on the road in front of me. So the sun is broken through a little bit. It's still raining. It's what we term a monkey's wedding now. I don't know if that term is used worldwide, but here in South Africa, when it rains and the sun is shining, we call it a monkey's wedding, and that is what is happening at the moment. But that is a beautiful sunrise, considering we are being sort of rained upon. It is as pretty as one could ask for. What do you think, Ferg? I think it's quite pretty. I quite like it. I think it's nice. Snazzy wondering if the leopard tortoises are larger than normal American turtles. Snazzy, to be honest, I can't answer that with any accurate sort of information because I've never seen an average American turtle, so I wouldn't know whether or not our leopard tortoises are bigger. What I can tell you is that our leopard tortoises at fully grown, the females, weigh in at about 15 pounds, so that's quite big and quite heavy. How big your American turtles get, I'm not quite sure. I will have to try and have a look. Ferg, if you come down from the sun a little bit, just onto above the road, if you can have a look, you'll see that there is a number of allets that are just busy floating about, and the sun is catching their wings with the rain. So just above the road, a little bit higher for me, just up against the sort of background, you'll see them. There we go. You see all of them flying around. You can see the rain falling and their wings are just catching a bit of the light. Isn't that beautiful? I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's a very pretty scene to see, and so that's what I was talking about with the birds. The birds are going to have an absolute field day following these things around. So a lot of you would think that those are just little flying insects, but in fact those really are termites, and not the bad termites that eat your house. These are mostly fungus eating termites, so you don't need to worry about them. Having lots of them in the air is not anything to stress about. It also is good news for most of our animals out here, because they're going to be getting a huge protein boost today as these little things get lapped up as soon as the rain stops. But with the rain and the golden light and the insects flying in and out, is that not just beautiful? I know sometimes we look for big animals. Well done, Fergus. You're very arty this morning. I like it. Good work. There's some of the cat's tail grass that is highlighting and getting a bit of the golden light as well. Absolutely wonderful. Alright, let's carry on and try and find a leopard now in this golden light, because it's perfectly suited for leopard action. I hear somebody is calling me on the radio as well, so I just want to get hold of them quickly. Aubrey, now somebody else is on the radio. Now while I try and figure out who is calling me and try and get hold of them, let's go back across to Scotty and see how his tracking's going and whether or not he's managed to decode the mystery as to where that male went.
Our tracking went well, but sadly it led us to our southern boundary, where this male lion is, at least for now, heading in a easterly direction towards the rising sun. I am guessing he would have continued his mission south though. Thought we'd stop and show you this beautiful rainbow. So we've actually facing the wrong direction. The lion walked all the way down this road. And I know you've been enjoying some beautiful scenes of the termites erupting from the earth with Tristan. And isn't this also something quite special to behold? There's a little bit of a double rainbow. To the right of this one, there's a slightly more kind of faded one. I don't know if we'll be able to pick it up. You may see a little bit more of a glow. It's kind of fading in and out. It's fading away now, sadly. Kelly, you'd like to know, how does the rainy season affect our drives? Well, it just makes our lives very complicated, basically, in that we often have to stop, put the flaps up, put the flaps down. We've got obviously a lot of important equipment on this vehicle, not just the camera, but there's a whole bunch of very, very important and expensive equipment that makes these broadcasts possible. There's cables everywhere, there's radios everywhere, there's this monitor here that I've got a funny little cover over. They don't like getting wet. We've busted a few of those thanks to rainy weather. So it basically just makes our lives a little bit complicated, but we still go out. And we do have these rain covers, these roofs that we put over the vehicles, and they tend to help. The ones in the Mara Also, the vehicles in the Mara also have these rain covers. It's a bigger vehicle that we use in the Mara. It's the same type of vehicle as this, but it's a much longer version. This is a short wheelbase version. So a slightly different design. I think we can take some of the adaptations that we made in the Mara and apply them to these roofs to make them a little bit more effective. With a lot of what we do, we have to kind of pioneer our own way and build our own things that kind of work for us, because we are unique and kind of different to a regular safari vehicle, and we kind of do things a little bit different to them. Not hugely, but just a few kind of slight differences, which means we have to design our vehicles a little bit differently to how they ordinarily get done, which gives us great opportunities to think out the box and build some fun designs. The male lion tracks are continuing down this road. They're not easy to see, but they are still heading east. Maybe he's just lying up on either side of the road if we are lucky, but basically at the moment everything on our left is Djuma, everything on our right is no man's land where we cannot go. It's not no man's land really, but we're not allowed there, so sadly it seems like we probably are going to miss this male lion. Hello Matthew, you would like to know if there are snakes in the area, and yes, there certainly are. I wouldn't say the Sabi Sands has a huge population of snakes, but in most wilderness areas, even where there's healthy snake populations, you very seldom see them, because they are secretive animals that often slither off as they get any kind of note that we're on our way. So often we do see fresh tracks of them slithering across the roads, but we seldom actually find them for you, which is a pity. But this is some of the best snake searching weather we could ask for. After rain, especially after it's been quite hot and dry, about the normal. So if there was ever a day that we were going to find you a snake, it's today, Matthew. A lot of the snakes here, you know, like most areas, some will be venomous, some won't be. It all kind of depends on the species, but we do have some of Africa's most venomous snakes that live here, namely the puff adder and the black mamba. Okay, so we're close to the treehouse waterhole. I've kind of lost track of the lion's tracks that were heading down this road, but we'll come back and have a look. I'm guessing he did continue further south, but let's just pop up to this little waterhole and see what's going on here. There may be something lurking just over the dam wall. I'm hoping that we see Thandi and not Barbara, a female leopard, and her daughter. It was my first sighting of the two of them together yesterday. I'd never met Not Barbara. For those of you who may be joining for the first time, it's just a little bit of a joke that we call the young daughter of Shadow Not Barbara. I think James made a joke that he would like to call her Barbara, which I thought was quite funny. And we basically give our own safari live names to leopards before they get their official kind of name when they become independent. And I'm told that it went from Barbara to Not Barbara, and that's quite funny, I think. Nothing to see at first glance at the waterhole here. And we may just stop for a few moments and listen. In a thick area like this, unlike the Masai Mara, sometimes you can hear further than you can see. So sometimes it actually pays dividends if you're not sure where anything is, just to stop, wait 5 minutes, and increase your likelihood of being able to hear some important clues from the neighborhood watch. Quite a few animals will alarm call at predators: vervet monkeys, impalas, squirrels, guinea fowls. I mean, just to name a few. So hopefully one of them will spot a predator and let off the alarm. One animal that I haven't heard alarm calling since I've been here, and that I've really missed the sound of, is the vervet monkey. So I'm hoping that changes. You can still see there's a slight pitter-patter of rain falling onto this waterhole, but Nothing too serious, or at least doesn't seem that way, because we parked under a roof and obviously all the conditions are in our favor, so it's not blowing in from the side at the moment. But a very slight pitter-patter. It's a beautiful morning with the sun kind of sometimes breaking through, creating some moody scenes. All we need now is some interesting animals to look at. So let's continue the search. We did get off to an incredible start there up on the quarantine clearings. I'm sure you'll all agree. It was most wonderful seeing those young wildebeest run around. And I'm wondering if that male lion who we were tracking didn't manage to swat one or two of those young wildebeest. He possibly came into that area because he heard the hyenas, you know, cackling and laughing, fighting over a hard-earned kill that they may have made possible. Okay, well, while we go through a shaky area, we'll send you to Tristan.
Right, so unfortunately Scotty seems to have a few little gremlins that are giving him a bit of trouble there, so hopefully he'll sort those out. It's been a couple gremlin-filled days. I think it's time to do some eradication of them and to try and get as many of them out of here as quick as possible. But we're just coming around on Twin Dams now, on Twin Dams Road, so we're just going up towards where the old den for Thandi was, just to have a little check there, see if I can just pick up some fresh tracks, and maybe, you know, there's tracks indicating a direction that she's moving or something like that, and we can then get a better kind of point of where she actually is at the moment, because she's being a little on the elusive side. So we are going to try and see where she is. Not that we can blame her, she's given us a good week. We've had some really good sightings of her this week. It's probably the most times we've seen Thandi in a week in a long time. So if we don't find her, it's not the end of the world, but it will definitely be nice to catch up with her and just see how she's doing, and see how the little one is doing, and see how, you know, it's progressing, and whether or not she has in fact moved from where her previous den was. Just careful our roof on all of these. I'm not sure what happened with Tingana. I know that he was seen last night. Apparently he caught a little baby warthog yesterday afternoon and ate that, and then Shadow and Cub, nobody found them in the afternoon, so I don't know quite what played out there. The last time we saw them, they were all three were together, as you all know, and so hopefully we'll see some sort of sign of any of those three in this particular general vicinity. Maybe Scott gets lucky around that sort of southern section and finds some tracks for Shadow and the Cub. It'd be nice to know where they ended up. Apparently they were still busy hunting and going after all kinds of various different things. The two track that I'm looking for is just up ahead now. Let's see. So one of the guys has been here already, but I don't know if they know where they're actually going. So it seems as though they've gone in, but I don't know if they're actually just sitting here in the right place. Well, if they are here, we're going to have to move out. Nobody said that they were here. I did say that I was going to just come and check, so maybe somebody else has just kind of come in to have a look and gone already, but I don't think so. I'm pretty sure there's no tracks coming out of here again, which is interesting. But let's try and have a little look and see what we can find. She does sometimes lie up here. There's a little mud wallow up in this area that she sometimes lies at. Jess, you're wondering how quickly a female leopard can have her next litter. Well, it's very dependent on a number of factors. Each female is slightly different, but theoretically they can start going into estrous cycles from already a year old. Well, when their cub is a year old. So 1 year after having a cub, then they can theoretically have another one. I haven't seen too many leopards doing it. We know that Thandi wasn't far off. I mean, Tumba was only about 14 months when she left him, so I mean they can go a little bit earlier and they can can try and kind of leave those cubs at an early age. So it does sometimes happen, but most of the time around a year to 14 months is when they start to mate for the first time again after having a cub. Now I don't see any sign of her here. I was just checking this little wallow. She sometimes lies in this area and just kind of enjoys a bit of sort of relaxation time. Maybe it's just time away from the cub. So it's always worth just coming and checking here and just having a little look, seeing what's going on. But we'll turn around now and we'll go back to where I think she is, and then we'll just check along the path that she walked, because maybe she's got another little place somewhere in that drainage that we just need to kind of decode exactly where it is. So that's going to be the plan of action, I think. What do you think, Fergus? Fair idea? Right, now and things have been a little bit on the sort of quiet side, although we have had some cool things to see. We've had owlets and tortoises and rain, and it's always nice to see all of those things. But our intrepid explorer McMuddy is out and about in the Mara and is rearing to say hello with some beefy buffalo.
Welcome to the Mara. The sun is only just starting to rise now, and the buffalo are slowly starting to wake up on this frosty morning. Most mornings have been quite chilly as well today, but that didn't seem to stop the buffalo. They'll be nice and warm with their thick coats. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera today is Manu. Yeah. It's, what did they call us? Just joined us, big welcome. Of course, this is live. This is happening right now from 2 different locations across Africa. And like I said, you joined me in the Mara Triangle in Kenya with some live if you want to chat to us, or you can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. That is acceptable. And we won't stay with these buffalo for too long, because I would quite like to find some spots this morning, Manu. I'm determined to find that female leopard that we were tracking. Yesterday morning we had a quick look around for her last night, or yesterday afternoon as well. So what we are going to do is we're going to head straight into that direction, because yesterday morning when I had those tracks, she was maybe only 20 minutes or 30 minutes ahead of me. She'd only just come through. Those tracks were crystal clear, well, as crystal clear as a track can be on the ground, but you could even still see where the hair on her underneath her feet had actually been pressed down onto the ground as well. So we'll just make our way through the buffalo. Come on, yes, you can go first. That's quite a young calf. The umbilical cord has not even dried out just yet. Sorry, that's me switching the car off. It's a little one. You can see it's still quite dark in color. It hasn't quite gone that bleached orange that sometimes those buffalo go. That's very young. Maybe only a day or 2 old. You can see it has got a bit of a spring in its step. Lots of vehicles, all the balloon vehicles heading out as well. That's what those cars were. And the oxpeckers haven't quite woken up either. They're still resting up against the buffalo. But let's keep going. So I reckon if we constantly keep checking the same area, we know that she has a route now. We're going to have to bump into her eventually. I mean, it could be a year from now that we eventually get the timing right, but we won't know unless we go and try and do things like that. So that's going to be the plan. It would be quite nice to find a leopard that's pretty close to camp. Excuse me, buffalo. Please may I have that name again? I'm so sorry. As you said it twice, at both times it cut out. Typical. The gremlins are very strategic about the way they go about affecting us every now and then, particularly with questions. They make you lose out on the most important word or the names. Vicky, there we go. See, I first heard Rafiki. And I was like, nah, I don't think that's right. But Vicky, that sounds a little bit better. You wondering whether buffalo horns can break. Most certainly. It's actually not uncommon to see buffalo with either one horn or one tip that's chipped off. And those boys do fight. It's essentially like 2 cars having a collision. The size of, well, 2 small cars, 2 Mr. Bean cars having a collision when 2 buffalo run at one another. Probably a bit more than a Mr. Bean car though. Clashing heads, so they can quite easily lose horns that way. But buffalo's horns is very important to them. I mean, it's their safety. especially against lions, which is really the only thing that's going to be going after a fully grown buffalo, unless you get a very brave hyena clan, and the hyena clans are large enough out here to take down adult buffalo. So I suppose they've got them to worry about too, but I think I'd be more worried about the lions. But also I'm going to go down this way, and then I'm going to shoot up because I want to check to see if our jackal pups are around. I'm sure you're all enjoying seeing them, and we might as well make the most of it before they disperse, and we have to wait until next year to see young jackal pups. And then also that's where I left those lion cubs yesterday morning in the forest, one of the forests close to that road. Not that there were any roads around there. We checked yesterday afternoon, and they were around there, and I think those cubs are quite young. I don't think they're going to be moving around too much just yet. I'm sure they'll stay put for a few days in a certain area, especially if there's any kills around. So that's what we're going to probably going to do. That we're going to head down in that direction. What else is happening out here? Not much. A little bit misty this morning, very chilly, a bit dusty from all the cars racing down. Seems like the balloons have set off and are floating across the Mara quite quickly. There is a bit of a breeze. It looks like they're going over the perfect spot though. Now as we drive around, there's lots of these lollipop shaped trees, and another YouTube patron was wondering if these are all acacia trees. So actually they're not, all these little ones like that one there. They are Lioness aegypticus, so they're one of the torchwood trees. They just shaped that way because the giraffe love to eat them too. But you can start to see the acacia tortillus as you start going a little bit further west towards the Tanzanian border. They go from being these beautiful Lioness trees to the acacias a little bit further down, so that definitely is a possibility. And now we go through another one of these vacant just spots in the Mara. It's incredible. It honestly always surprises me how there's just nothing. And wait, you know, there's probably lots of different things hiding away in the long grass, but unless you start zigzagging through, off-roading to chase something up, you won't find much. So I believe, okay, well I'll tell you again, our plans are, just in case you've forgotten, we are going to go and look for the jackal pups, and then we're going to look for the lions, and then we're going to go and look for a leopard. And while we go and do that, because we've got quite a journey ahead of us, I'm going to send you back to Tristan, who has finally made his way to Thandi's den, and I hope that this time round he has a little bit more luck than he's had before.
Well, no, sadly not, Taylor, at this stage. So we're just sitting here, just quietly listening, just having a little look around, and so far it seems there's very little going on. I can't see any fresh tracks down in the riverbed itself, so I don't know if she's actually here anymore. I have a sneaky suspicion she did move because she had that carcass here. I don't think she wanted to stay. Also, it would have surprised me with, you know, the proximity of Tingana and Shadow and Cub yesterday to where we are now is not very far, and there was a lot of vocalizing yesterday, and Thandi will know that there was a male and a female, and I'm actually a little surprised she didn't show up on the scene. I thought she would have come, but maybe what happened is she rather kind of thought, well, I need to go and get to my cub and just sit there and wait and make sure that I can protect it should another leopard come into the area. So maybe that's what she did, and she just kind of moved her way back towards where Shadow, well, towards wherever the cub was, and just lay with it in the case it needed to be protected. So I mean, it's interesting. I don't know now where she is. We checked that pipe where she was heading. The last kind of visual we had was her heading back this way with that little one. Now from here to where the pipe is not very far, but there are a number of places where she could have put that cub since from here to there. So maybe we'll just try and do a little drive along this edge of this riverbed that's going that way, see see, maybe we get lucky and she's somewhere in that section. There's lots of likely little den spots all along this riverbed, so she could be anywhere here now that she's kind of moved, and so we'll just see. But it's also, we know this den, it took us how many days of just coming here and checking and coming here and checking and being patient for us to find her. She kept going into that little cave area, and if she's in there, there's no ways we're going to know. You can't exactly go and put your head into that bush and have a little look if you want to keep your face. So we have to just sit and we have to be patient sometimes and just kind of take it in and just see what's going on and whether or not she's going to make an appearance at some point. She kind of ends up going in and out quite a bit, and if the cub is around and it is awake, it will be, as we've seen, a little bit of an explorer, so that would hopefully mean that it would come out and try and kind of play around. The problem is, if it's suckling, then it's not going to go anywhere because it will want mom's milk more than it will want to play. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, it's worth just giving it a chance and sitting for a bit. It's also a beautiful spot down here. There's beautiful kind of scenery, and you know, you're in this little riverbed and it's protected and it's thick, and there's birds that are calling. It's stopped raining now, so it's just very pretty to be inside here and just to take in a bit of nature and just listen to some sounds and kind of sit quietly and enjoy and immerse yourself a little bit. But I'm not sure, like I say, that she's still here. I don't really see any signs. I'm trying to look in the riverbed from where I am. It's obviously quite a long way away from here. But I might get a pair of binoculars out just now and just kind of scan the sand and see if I can see any tracks. Because if she is here, well, there will be fresh tracks that will have been made last night, or, you know, maybe early this morning. So there will be some sort of sign of them. But at the moment, very little. Let's see now. So just kind of scanning around with my binoculars at the moment, but I don't see anything really to speak of in the sand. It's also so difficult from the angle that we're at, with a bit of rain, overcast conditions. It doesn't make it easy to see anything at this stage, so we'll just have to kind of go look around and see what else there is, and see maybe if we can head towards Gowrie Cutline and go and check again towards that area. Maybe I get lucky and we find something. But while we do that, let's go across to Scotty D, who I think is just bumbling about, and I'm not quite sure what his plans are for the rest of the morning.
Well, it certainly is a tricky business trying to actually decide whether or not and invest time or head off and look for her elsewhere. I've got a gut feeling she's moved that den to another spot. Now, our plans are to look for her sister and her cub. So, what a wonderful situation that is, that we can look for two leopard sisters and their two children. Not a bad way to go about a safari, I don't think. Very fortunate that we've got both of them on our property at the moment. They're not always both on here, but certainly wonderful prospects. They definitely both were on the property yesterday, and I did have some tracks of a female leopard heading in the opposite direction. She's gone. Now I'm guessing the tracks we had were of Shadow, not Thandi. They're kind of overlapping at the moment, so hard to be certain. Wonderful stuff. Kerry, you'd like to know if Shadow's cub can hunt, and yes. Yes, she most certainly can. I've never seen her doing it, but I can guarantee you a leopard that's approaching a year of age, which she is, would have already caught and killed a number of animals. She'll be left for long periods of time on her own, but while her mum's hunting. But while her mum is doing some more serious hunting, if any lizards or small birds, or who knows, them. She's a cat, and even young domestic kittens will instinctively run after little fluffy balls you throw for them, and it's no different to the wild big cats of Africa. They don't need any training from their parents, even though parents will occasionally, you know, give them opportunities to hone their skills. it's not a requirement for a young leopard to be taught, nor lion, nor cheetah. They're born with that instinctual ability to chase things. But yesterday I'm told Shadow did catch a tiny little baby scrub bear, and she kind of just gave it to not Barbara to play with and hone her skills with, so there are examples of it happening. I'm sure Tristan will be able to provide you with some stories of what not Barbara has caught before, Kerry. So next time you're on board with him, I'm sure he'll be able to give you a little bit more insight. I've sadly been out of this area for the last year and a half, so I don't have too many fresh tales. Yesterday was the first time I actually laid eyes on not Barbara. So that is the reason why I cannot confirm, but I can guess that there's a strong likelihood that she has in fact made some kills. Dwarf mongoose are kind of favorites of young little cubs. Philip, you'd like to know if the two sisters, Shadow and Thandi, would ever share a den site. I highly doubt it, and even though strange things do happen out here, I don't think leopards will ever share den sites. But who knows, maybe it has happened in the past. It would be a very abnormal scenario, Philip, and even though Shadow and Thandi are kind of overlapping in their mother's old territory as they work out how they're going to split this land up between them, they still, I'm told, growl at one another when they see each other. They're not having full-blown fights yet, but I think it will get to that stage once. Sorry, I just thought I saw some tracks there. They were just of a white-tailed mongoose. So I think it will get to a stage once they've had more time to kind of barter over this agreement as to how they're going to split up their mom's old turf. They will and could well have some full-blown fights. Ordinarily, female leopards who aren't sisters would be more prone to be, I think, more aggressive with one another, but I've never actually experienced two sisters in a scenario like this. So it's very exciting times actually to have the two of them converging on one another. It certainly wasn't the case when I was last year, about a year and a half ago. Shadow used to border with Kruger, her mother's territory, and Shadow used to ordinarily spend more time to the east of us, and Thandi used to spend more time to the south of us. And now that the mother's out of the equation, Thandi's moved further west, and Thandi's moved further north, and Shadow's moved further east, converging on Djuma. I don't know if that probably confused some of you more than it helped. But they're filling a void of, in all likelihood, what is a late Karula. Hopefully she's still alive, but I'm guessing she isn't. I think the same applies for young Shongile. James, you'd like to know if I think Thandi will keep her cub on Djuma. I think for the next 6 weeks we'll be okay, but once that cub starts becoming more able to escape predators, basically from 3 months of age, Thandi will go wherever she feels it's easiest to get a meal. So I'm guessing she will head, Thandi does ordinarily, I'm guessing from what Tristan's told me, not guessing, but I think spends more time when she doesn't have a cub to the east of us on Torchwood, and also to the south of us around Chitwa. So yes, as soon as that cub's 3 months of age, we are going to be seeing a lot less of them, sadly. Oh no, I just missed an opportunity. I saw this vulture a little bit late, but it's already flown off, and the roof doesn't help matters. Senzo, would you mind just putting the camera up a bit? Tiny bit. Thanks, buddy. Actually, am I too low? What's going on here? Am I slouching in the seat here? I think I am. There we go. Yeah, I need to get a booster seat. I'm too short, and it's causing Senzo to have to point the camera a little bit lower than we would like. Hello Terry, you'd like to know if I ever saw a leopard in the Mara. Yes, I certainly did. there was a big, beautiful male that would spend quite a lot of time in and around our camp. So the first 3 leopard sightings I had were all actually outside of the reserve. Our camp is just outside the reserve, up on top of the Olololo escarpment. A couple of times, sadly not with you, and then I think I had 1 sighting of a leopard that I shared with you, and I forget the name of the young female that we followed. Was it Leluca? I don't have a clue, but we did follow. It was a beautiful sighting of a young female leopard crisscrossing through a little riverbed, but other than that it was fairly bleak going. I didn't have much luck with leopard. There are quite a few leopard in the Mara, and if you work the areas where they are more often seen, your chances of seeing them are actually good. It's just, you know, with such good leopard viewing here, it didn't really make sense for us to scratch around for leopards in the Mara. This area is going to provide you with, in general, far better sightings. And of course we had the cheetah and the lion over there that did provide us with lots of great action. In my opinion, cheetah are probably the best predators for us to follow, because they hunt a lot during the day, their hunts are long in open areas, so good for filming. So I think they are actually the #1 carnivore to spend time with for what we do. But that's just my opinion. Very good. We're going to continue scratching about. Hopefully we'll find some sign of Shadow and not Barbara. And while we continue on our search for a leopard, why don't you hop on board with Tristan and give him a hand with his search for Thandi and her little cub. Oh, cancel that. Well, you'll be with me for a few more seconds, but not too much longer, because you're going to be heading up to the beautiful Masai Mara. I'm told the weather's a lot better up there today, and you will be glad to know that Taylor McCurdy has found her favorite young little fox-like creatures. I hope they are playing about for you. Enjoy.
Nikki, your comms are not coming through very, very good. Sorry, I just wanted to let you know straight off the bat. We have been having a few gremlins this morning, but we are with our favorite 4. What shall we call them? I think that they are deserving of a name. They are so cute. They are so precious. But our little Jackal pups are just sitting in the morning light, trying to warm up. After, like what I said, it has been a pretty chilly few evenings. Now, what have you got in your mouth? I don't know what it's eating. Oh, don't stand on your siblings. That's not particularly nice. It doesn't look like an animal of sorts. You're burying it now. Oh, that's such dog behavior. To stash something and hide it under the ground. So obviously, what have we got there? That's hippo dung. And now I don't know what that thing is in its mouth. I don't know if it was maybe a pellet or something. Oh no. The comms are... Can you copy? Very well, Manu. No, it's like a half out of 5. I can just hear the radio beeping. But they're very curious. A bird just flew across the road, and that's what caught the attention of this young jackal. And it wouldn't it be nice if it decided to go off and test its hunting skills, because you'll be surprised as to how often jackals actually eat on birds. It's not an uncommon sight to come across dead guinea fowl caused by the wonderful jackal. They normally hassle them quite a bit. I remember growing up on a stud farm, and on a thoroughbred stud farm, and there were a few jackals and things, and lots of caracal around as well, and they would harass the guinea fowl. You'd hear them freaking out at night there. The birds have all just run. What is that? Fluff? I don't know what that is and where it has got it from. I wonder if it's not part of a blanket or something that's maybe fallen off one of the many vehicles that are out here to try and keep the guests nice and toasty, and they've torn it up and that's a piece of something. As we saw it dig it out of some hippo dung, in fact. So I don't know where all that's come from. And unfortunately, that's not going to do too much worry to that jackal if it does eat it. If it is something that's not necessarily natural, I don't know what it is, but it seems to be enjoying itself. And that's why it is so important when you do come out on a safari that you make sure you try and keep all your belongings together. Obviously you don't want to lose them, you don't want to have to go hopping on after and trying to retrace your steps to find a cell phone, but accidents happen, bottles fall out, packets, these types of things, but try and hold on to your goodies. Otherwise, young inquisitive animals like lions and like jackal pups will play with them. Ah, there's a black rhino. How are we so lucky, Manu? Every morning. Hey? That's cool. Now, I think that this rhino that we're seeing is the one that we briefly saw yesterday when we were in the forest. It was quite cool. Nikki, if you can copy me, can you maybe try contacting me via WhatsApp? Because I think that I've lost comms. Oh, no, there we go. No, you're still there. I was just checking. The comms are really, really bad. But there we go. So I think this is the same rhino we saw at very close proximity yesterday. And he seems to be a lot more relaxed now, even if it is a boy. But don't worry, Nikki, the comms are coming through much better now. There were obviously just some gremlins, but they seem to have sorted themselves out. Well, that's a great way to start. Jackal, you don't feel like going to play with that black rhino? No? Oh, come on, that would be so much fun. You would love that. They haven't even... they're looking around. I think they're more enjoying all the birds and things that are just flying from the grass this morning. Arbia, do you say that these had to be the most relaxed jackal in Africa? Maybe not. I actually saw their parents. I would assume that it's the parents a little bit further down the road from where these four are, and they were not relaxed at all. They actually ran away from the car and into the long grass. First I thought, that's a bit strange. I thought it was the pups. I wonder what stirred them. But it wasn't. It was not the ones we were looking for. And it is quite interesting because typically the youngsters will take on behavior from their parents. It's a learned behavior. It's how lion cubs become relaxed around cars, leopard cubs, you name it, rhino calves, elephant calves, is that they just follow on from their parents' behavior. Now, Ivy, you're wondering, with the jackal's very pointy ears, do they have extraordinary hearing? No, not necessarily. They have got very acute hearing. And remember, they're going after a lot of small prey as well, so I think it does help when you hear some rustling under shrubs, or you hear insects moving around in the dung, very much like a bat-eared fox. So yeah, they have got very good hearing. And then, of course, responding to maybe any distress calls. I can't believe we got to see another black rhino. I've literally now gone every single day for the last couple of days in a row seeing rhino after rhino after rhino, which is really amazing. And I think we must remember how fortunate we are to still be seeing these creatures out in the wild. Because, in my opinion, in the next 20, 30 years or so, I don't think we're going to be seeing rhinos out in the wild. If poaching continues at the rate that it is, or if I have children one day, they probably won't ever see them. They'll have to go to a zoo or something like that. So I think I'm very, very, very lucky to be sitting in the presence of these prehistoric creatures. Yes, come on over this way. I don't think this rhino has quite realized that we're here just yet. We are exceptionally far away from it, though. He's just making his way across the plain, but slowly turning in our direction. That could be quite a cool encounter between jackal pups and rhinos. Oh my goodness, my stomach is grumbling this morning. I'm quite hungry. Oh, a pizza night was a success, hey Manu? It was so delicious. It was really, really nice. I got told that I must make 2 pizzas. They were like small mini ones. I didn't eat both. I had one. I'm totally having that for breakfast this morning. It's going to be one of those days today where we just eat all the junk food. Ha ha ha, now I'm making Nikki hungry in final control. Good. Because you can help yourself to a cup of coffee, or you can at least snap your fingers and someone will bring you a cup of coffee. Hey Manu, it would be nice if we could have someone send one down. Need a zip line from the escarpment all the way down. That would be nice. Very cool. As they just sit here. And it's a nice spot. They live around in these shrubs. I'm pretty sure there's a burrow of sorts somewhere around here, because they're in exactly the same spot every single day. They don't have to go far for water. There's quite a few little luggers that'll be holding water, and I'm pretty sure there's lots and lots of food around here that they could be gobbling up. I mean, at night there's no shortage of rodents. There's no shortage of anything really, and there's lots of frogs and toads around at the moment, so for young inexperienced jackals they'll probably be chasing after them too. But the fact, like I said, been saying over the last few days, the fact that they're still all hanging around with one another makes me think that they haven't quite dispersed from their den that they were probably born in. My goodness, why is my stomach grumbling so much? Do we have snacks? I might have to steal whatever that jackal was feeding on just now. Anyways, I'm going to send you very quickly back across down to South Africa, where Tristan has got a creature with lots of feathers, and hopefully it doesn't fly away by the time you get to him.
Well, it stayed exactly where it should be. Thank you, Taylor, for telling it to stay put, although it looks as though it's a bit wet and fluffy and not really in the mood to fly anywhere, although there it goes. So it's a European roller, for those of you who have never seen one before. It is a beautiful bird, and as the name suggests, is a migratory bird. It comes all the way from southern Europe, that area, North Africa, and then down towards us for our summer months to take advantage of all the insects that come out during the rain. So those owlets that we saw earlier, they're going to be a big sort of food source for these European rollers. But nice to see anyway. It's been a little quiet. We've tried really hard to look for Thandi. I mean, I've checked as far as I can. The roof is obstructing us massively in that thick area. I was trying to follow that little drainage course between where she was and where we saw her at that pipe, and it's impossible with the roof. I will have to ditch the roof to be able to negotiate that area effectively, so we'll try that again hopefully later. Kristen, you're wondering if anyone's gone to Thandi's first den to investigate. So it just went past where we think she gave birth to the cubs, or where she first had a den, which is on on Central as well. It's a little termite mound not far from where that pipe is, but it's again a very difficult one because it's quite foliated around that termite mound, and you can't really see any tracks. If she comes from inside the block, you're not going to see any sign of her being anywhere in that area. And if she goes into the termite mound, then she disappears completely, so she's not even visible. So chances of her kind of being there, I suppose, it is a chance, but I somehow think she's got herself just another little similar situation to what we've seen her in, these little caves with little overhanging branches and roots and stuff that makes it difficult to actually see her. At the end of the day, she doesn't want her cub right out in the open, so I mean, I don't think she's at the old dens. We can go and check around and investigate, but I somehow just think that she's just moved somewhere close by, because we would have found her tracks crossing the road somewhere with the little cub, and we haven't. So I think it's still somewhere in that Mulawati area. Christy, you're wondering how old the leopard cub has to be to determine the sex. Well, we could determine the sex already now. It's just that the little one didn't sit still for long enough and wasn't really close enough and give us a clear enough view to know exactly what sex it is. So, I mean, normally at this age you can tell. If she just lifts its tail, we'll be able to tell and be able to see. So we just got to spend a bit more time with it and hopefully get a little closer view one day as it kind of maybe moves down the road away from us or something like that, where it's nice and open. That's when we're going to get our best chance. At the moment, it seems to be a situation where it's in thickets a lot of the time, and it's kind of behind bushes, and we're getting these little brief glimpses of it, but nothing to kind of follow behind it and get a good view of that tail end where we can then see if it's either a boy or a girl. So hopefully we'll get an answer. I personally, when we saw it the other day, just from a brief glimpse, I think it's a little female, and that's what I'm hedging my bet on. I might be completely wrong, of course, but I suppose I'm either 50%, it's 50% chance, either I'm right or wrong. So it looked like a little female, but of course it could be, like I say, completely wrong, and it very well could be a little male. So we'll just see. I'm hoping it's a female, just because it would be nice to have another female in the area. There's obviously a lot of kind of ifs and buts around whether or not that little female would be able to stay here. As we've seen with Shongila, it's a tough road that is led by a little leopard, and a female in this area has a tough time because of the number of other leopards in the area. So it really isn't easy if you're a little leopard cub to try and kind of work out what's going on and to try and carve out a space for yourself and survive. So that's why the percentage of sort of cubs being raised to adulthood and becoming adults is quite low. I mean, it's only about 30% to 40% of the cubs that are born. In fact, I'd go even lower, maybe 30%, 25% of the cubs that are born actually become an adult that is territorial and dominant within a section. So it's a very low percentage, and one that means that it's tough out there, and whether or not this little one is going to make it, it remains to be seen. Still got a long way to go. There's another little tortoise scurrying across the road. Hello, little guy. Off you go. There we go. I don't want to scare it too much. They'll be very active this morning with that bit of rain that's around. It allows them to move around. They can eat a lot of the plant material and gain moisture from that, and be able to get as much moisture as they can out of some plant materials. And then they can also find water now that's pooled up in places. They'll find like a little puddle somewhere, although I don't think it's rained quite enough for them to be drinking out of puddles, but you never know. Maybe there's some little places in the bush where a little bit of water is stored. Certainly not here at Gwari Pan. Gwari Pan is completely dry. You can see it doesn't look like there has been an inch of rain over the last couple months, because that is as dry as it gets. And it's not a very big pan, so it should fill quite quickly and quite easily, but it just goes to show that we haven't really had the rain that we need in order for this area to be sustained and to survive and to kind of get the water table higher again. Now, I believe a lot of you are saying that there's a big herd of elephants at Gwari Dam, and I hope that you are enjoying it, because I'm a little far from there. I might head in that direction. I'm just checking Buffelshoek Dam now, and then I might go around Gwari Cutline and come down to the dam itself. But I hope that you are to keep us updated, because we can't always be once. Right, I'm going to carry on, check Buffelshoek Dam, see what else is happening there. While I do that, I believe Scott's been off his car and tracking, and so I wonder what he's managed to investigate and find.
We are following the tracks of a male leopard, not sure who, possibly Tingana, and I got to quite a hard section of road where I got thrown off. But we are back on the trail. He's heading up this road. We basically got to a bit of a four-way junction, and he could have gone any which way. The animals will often use the roads as pathways, especially on a rainy, wet evening, because they'll get less wet when on the road than they will walking through the damp and soggy grass. Now, like I said a bit earlier, when tracking in weather like this, it can be quite tricky, just depending on the substrates of the road. And this road kind of solidifies once it's got a little bit wet. It's easier to track when it's dry and dusty, and the vehicle tires have been churning up all the sand and loosening them up. So we're just going to kind of move slowly in the same direction as he's heading along. There's a hyena that appears to be following his scent trail. You can see that the hyena's running, and the tracks are more fresh than the leopard. So hopefully, if I can still see the hyena's tracks, which are a bit easier to spot than the leopards down, that would be first prize. Hope you've been having a good time with Tristan as well as Taylor. I'm sure you have. I'm not too sure exactly what's been going on. I've been off the vehicle quite a bit, so I haven't been getting too many updates, but I have no doubt you've been having a great time. It looks like the sun's doing a good job trying to bust through the clouds. You'll see the odd shaft of light breaking through. We have another check up here, so I can see the hyena tracks, but the leopard tracks are going to be a little bit more tricky to see. Can't be certain if there are any leopard tracks here. Hello, young Ben, just 8 years old. You'd like to know if Father Christmas visits us here in the bush. And yes, of course he does. He has to be quite careful though with his reindeer, because we've obviously got all these lions and leopards around, but I think Santa's too clever, and because the reindeers can fly, the lions have a hard time catching them. So we still do get delivered our presents, and we still leave out some cookies and milk for Santa. We have to leave it in a good spot though, so that the hyena don't steal it before he does. So we have to do things a little bit differently here because of the funny animals we get. But Santa also does like coming on safari, just like you guys. So I wonder what he's gonna bring us this year. I'm looking forward to the prezzies already. Very good. Now, Santa's not only going to be coming to visit us here, he's also going to be visiting the crew a long way away from us, all the way in Kenya. Why don't you go and see what Taylor thinks?
So last year Santa had to fight off Genevieve the Genet and Gwen the hyena because they were after his milk and cookies. I don't blame them either, but I saw a battle. It was exceptional. It was so amazing. But I wish that I'd had a recording device so I could have showed you all. Now, what is that little thing? A little swallow of sorts. I don't really know to look for these lions. Like I said, I don't think they're going to be moving those young cubs around too much. I think they're going to try and keep them in one area because that's what they have been doing. Obviously, as they get older, that's going to start to change. But just watching them around, moving around yesterday, they're still unsure of the cars. They don't know. I mean, I've obviously seen vehicles, but I think they've been seeing them at a distance. And we had them come right past. A little bit nervous. Ooh. Now, Yvonne, you're wondering what is my favorite Christmas tradition? Trying to think. I think my favorite one has to be that of safaris. Is from tomorrow I get to wear my Christmas hat, and then I've got good news for all of you. Is my mother is sending me a Christmas package, and Steph is coming back up to the Mara, so I think he arrives tomorrow. So she sent up my favorite Christmas hat, which I've had for a long time, and I was telling you just the other day how sad I was that I'm breaking tradition. And I was really sad. I was really sad about that actually. So now I'm not sad anymore. I get Christmas presents this year, woohoo, which I haven't had for a long time. And it's because I've been a naughty girl and I just get coal in my stocking all the time. And then I get to wear my favorite Christmas hat. So Yvonne, I think that has to be my favorite Christmas tradition, is coming out on a safari with the Christmas hat on. We'll see how many other guides out here actually jump on that wagon. Although I think they're probably expecting big things from me after I wore the lion mask on Halloween. Yeah, that caused some stares. That really did cause some stares. They'd never seen anything like that before. Ooh. Now Samantha, you're wondering if I could not be a guide, or if I was not a guide, do I know what I'd be? It would be between a vet, or would love to have been a vet, but a vet like a wildlife vet, and maybe horses and cows and sheep, all the animals, vet for all the animals, and what else? An equine dentist. I really wanted to be a horse dentist at one point too, or I could totally be a paleontologist. I could still go back and look for I'd probably I'd specialize in maybe dinosaurs though. I'd be looking for dinosaur bones, that's it. So yeah, or what else? I was telling you the other day what I wanted to be growing up. Oh, there were so many things. There's so many things. Yeah, now Nikki's saying a horse dentist, but like, what? Yes. Well, those of you who are familiar with the equine sport, whether it is dressage or show jumping or steeplechase or horse racing, you name it, it's very important that a horse has its teeth looked after. Of course, it has a bit in its mouth most of the time, so you want them to be as comfortable as possible. And it's actually a very specialized career. There's only a couple of places in the world that you can study it, and unfortunately South Africa, there's Lions, it's about 10 years behind in terms of getting a university where you'd be able to study anything like that. So for me, the closest thing would have been to have gone to Australia. Here are my favorite lionesses. But I'm going to have to go back a little bit. So yeah, so that was something that I really wanted to do. I could still always do it, hey. But I probably won't because I quite enjoy the bush. I think it suits me. But way down there under the shady trees lay 2 lioness. Just waking up by the looks of it. Well, they've probably been on the move most of the night. And probably just going to bed. And they love it around here. But now we have this confusion, and I was speaking to Jeffrey, who is one of the guides from Angama, and him and I were trying to figure out the other day when we had those 4 lionesses, obviously with the 3 very young cubs, and trying to figure out who exactly they are. Is it these 2 lionesses that join up with the Angama pride, or the Olololos is what they're also known as, or is it somebody from, is it the marsh breakaways, which we know have got 3 young cubs, but then who is that 4th lioness? Is it one of these lionesses then that pop past the marsh breakaways too? So I'm still baffled about that sighting we had yesterday morning. I can't tell you for sure who it was, but hopefully when we see them again we'll get a bit more clarification. It was quite interesting. What is that sound? A truck? Car? So I'm just hearing a strange city noise in the park for a change. But I think it's maybe food delivery day. So perhaps it's one of the bigger trucks that pass through a couple of the lodges. You can imagine trying to get food out here and fresh produce is an absolute nightmare. It's got to come in on a huge truck all the way from Nairobi. But fantastic, you can't hear it, so that's good news. I can just hear it. Just reminded me of a highway. But of course they've got to come through, otherwise we wouldn't be able to eat anything. But it's a pity that these girls are so far away and off-road. And it does look like they're settling down. But for this afternoon, it's going to be really nice, I think. I like coming to this spot because it's also in the marsh, so we can get to watch some nice elephant interactions. And I think that's going to be my focus for not tomorrow, for the sunset safaris. We're going to spend some time with some elephants, I think, and watch the little ones play around. I have a sighting request. So nature, listen up. I would like to see a little elephant charging through the marsh, chasing cattle egrets. That's what I want to watch, and that sighting needs to go on for about 3 hours. I'm sure you would all love watching that for an entire sunset safari. It's one of the funniest things ever to see that. Or even just little lion cubs playing around would be quite nice. But you can't be too greedy when you're out here. You can see there's another vehicle that also had a quick look at these girls, but just decided that they're very, very far away. We're lucky. Very, very lucky that we've got these cameras that can zoom on in, because not even my binoculars can bring them this close. So that's why. So we'll do another search around here and keep checking the forest to see if we can find those young cubs we saw briefly yesterday. I'm going to send you onto Scott's car, aka Johnny Bravo, and he is a man with a plan, and he's got a surprise.
Johnny Bravo? We certainly do have a surprise, but you're going to have to work for it. Take a look around. There is something amidst us, and it may be up in a tree, it may be on the ground. Who knows at this stage? Can you guys see anything yet? Anything amiss? Anything that doesn't look like it's quite supposed to? I'm about to get into a spot where we can stop and reveal the treat we have in store for you. Just need to get the vehicle at a good angle. Just put the camera there, Sans. Oh, the roof is killing us. The roof is not working. Just keep it there, Sans. Oh, well, this has been an epic fail due to the fact that the roof prevented us from seeing, but you've probably seen a glimpse of something interesting. Just gonna turn around and snipe a view from here, which will be very nice, actually better than where we were before. Put the camera there, Sans. Oh my lord. Well done, Emma. You guessed right. It was in fact a leopard in a tree, and it's not just a leopard. It's got a duiker as well. And this is Shadow, and her young cub is also lying up nearby. Now I wonder how fresh this kill is. The fact that there's still what seems to be a decent amount remaining, as well as the fact that her cub's not up there trying to feed on it with her, means that I'm guessing it's fairly fresh. Now, interestingly, we can't see from this angle, but Shadow was growling quite a lot. I could just hear it. We obviously couldn't see her face. Let's try and reposition. She looks like she's got comfortable there now. And it would obviously also be nice for us to show you where the little cub is. She was lying off on the left in the grass, waiting patiently. Yay! Leopard in a tree! It's always the most exciting thing to spot. And good idea, Sense. There's a nice termite mound here that will get us a good spot. She's growling at her cub. The cub's paying no attention, but I'm just going to get us in a spot where we can hopefully see both of them. I think that's going to work. So let's show you where the cub is first. She's just lying up. Let me just cut this cable tie quickly. Open up this flap. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so there you can see the cub waiting patiently for Mom. Let's show Thandi quickly. Sorry, not Thandi, Shadow, because she's really hissing. Pull it more. Oh, there we go. Watch her. She's growling and hissing and snarling. Look at that. Incredible. And I'm almost certain that it is in fact her cub that she's growling at. I could be wrong, and the reason why she will be growling at this cub is because Shadow is known to not abandon but kick her cubs out of home a little bit younger than normal, at around a year of age. And obviously these are the initial signs and stages of her having to do that. It's kind of like a bittersweet scenario, because of course every mother leopard at some point in her life will have to be nasty to her cubs, be it male or female, and kind of slowly start chasing them out of home and telling them to start going to get their own meals and start making their own plans in life. And it's not uncommon for leopards to growl at them. So Vicky, you're wondering why exactly they're not eating at the same time, and this is exactly why. Shadow's like, I've made this meal, I've caught it, you're a big girl now. She's telling not Barbara, her daughter, and I'm guessing what this means is that hopefully in the coming weeks and months, not Barbara will be doing her own thing, and Thandi will possibly be mating, trying to make plans for the next youngsters. Now we're just going to be making a little bit of a noise and putting up some flaps and some zips and some covers, so we'll be moving around a little bit. So we just want to get as ready as we possibly can to show you as much as possible. Seems like Shadow has calmed down for now, but it's going to be a very interesting morning. I can't wait to see it, how it all unfolds. There we go again, look at this. Now she's giving us a snarl, but you can see it's been predominantly aimed at the young cub. Now sadly we can't see the young cub too well and what it's doing. Isn't this incredible? Let's try listen one last time when she growls again. We're just going to turn up our ambient audio. It sometimes backfires because it sometimes just picks up all our noises and not the noises of the animals, but it'll be wonderful for you to be able to hear that low rumbling growl. orbs. The Bantuan's just at the base of the silver cluster leaf over here. Sorry guys, I was just letting Aubrey know what exactly was going on, just so he can plan his attack with parking his vehicle. Aubrey's one of the Djuma guides, and he's just arrived here with some of his guests. What I'd like to actually do is reposition and get a better view of the cub, and hopefully possibly a two-shot of the cub and the mother, so you got a better idea of what's going on when they start growling at one another. And that way I can also give Aubrey's guests a good view of Shadow up the tree. Oh. So I just want to give you a good view of the cub for now. From here, a nice close-up. As you can see, it seems very relaxed, just lounging about in the grass, wondering why is Mom being so nasty to me. But sadly for you, not Barbara, you are going to have to start looking after yourself soon. And it'll be very, very interesting to see. Now, of course, I could be wrong. I could be assuming things. I could have the wrong leopards here. I could be getting confused, but I'm fairly certain it is, in fact, Shadow's young daughter here with us. If any of you can prove otherwise, let us know, but I think it's fair to say and likely to assume that if Shadow is here, this is in fact her youngster, and it does look like it from the glimpses we've got. Now, what I want to do is try and sneak around into a spot where we can see what the cub's responses are to her mother's growls, because I'm fairly confident that young, not Barbara, for those of you who are joining for the first time, it may be a little bit confusing. It's a bit of a joke that we've got going on, but we call this young leopard not Barbara, because one of the other guides called her Barbara once, which is kind of a joke, really. And subsequent to that, it seems like the name's been changed to not Barbara. This is going to be a little bit tricky. We can maybe squeeze through here and get a two-shot. Try and pull it out, Sense. Thanks. This actually will work. Not perfectly, but we can see the youngster here. Is the... Can you believe it? Thank you, James Richards. I presumed incorrectly, and this is in fact Thandi. She was looking a little bit old, and this is Thandi and Shadow in the same sighting. Zoom out quickly and we can show a two-shot, and this is absolutely fascinating. Two sisters together in one scene. Who knows where Thandi's, Shadow's young cub is, sorry. Let me just update their guides, because this is really interesting. Stations, this is Thandi that I'm here with, not Shadow's Bantuan. And what an incredible, incredible scene. Two sisters, both about 11 years old now. They were born to the same litter. And as you can see, this is a great example that even though once upon a time they would have been best buddies, now things are a lot more serious. And I'm so excited to see how this unfolds. I wonder where Not Barbara is, if she's fled the scene, or if Shadow made this kill and hasn't been able to leave it to go and collect Not Barbara wherever she was left. Absolutely awesome stuff. Now we are going to stay put. We'll be sure to call you back as soon as anything heats up here, but for now you're heading back up to the Mara with Taylor.
Whenever I hear that name Barbara, I think of a sheep. I think that that's a great name for a sheep. Barbara. Anyways, of course, that's not really that leopard's name. It's just a little pet name while she's so sweet and little, but very exciting to see that interaction between Thandi and Shadow. Now, we just moved around and we've managed to get another view of our lionesses, unfortunately even further away than when we were a moment ago, but at least it's a bit of a clearer view. Now we can clearly see what they're getting up to. They're doing the nod, the head nod, before they pass out. There we go. And prick their ears up. Just having a little look around. Now this is a good spot to hang about because there is a lot of game around this morning, or most days there's a lot of game, from a buffalo to elephants to topi, plenty birds flying around, and no shortage of warthogs. We know that the warthogs are living in this area, quite a few burrows, so perhaps they're just waiting, they're plotting their next move and hoping to maybe make a hunt a bit later. I can't see if they've really eaten too much at all. It's a bit difficult from the position that we were laying in, but there's a lone buffalo bull. There's plenty of them around. They actually might be a little bachelor herd, but just all walking at their own pace. Probably heading to a nice marshy section where they'll lay in it, or maybe in the lugger, because they're about to cross a lugger. Well, they're coming up to a lugger too, so they might not even make it into the marsh. He might just realize that he wants to soak up in a little bit more water and stay around there. Although I don't know if those lionesses are going to go after those big buffalo. I mean, 2 girls with fierce Mara buffalo will be quite a challenge for them. Not impossible though, but they're going to have to work very hard and be very strategic about the way they go about it. Otherwise they're going to end up with a few holes in their body from their horns. These guys don't go down easily. So the easier option would be to go for something like the topi or perhaps the warthog. And I'm sure that that's what they're going to wait for. Obviously it's going to be a hot day today. It's been nice and hazy. There's actually not a cloud in the sky. They've all burnt away by the sun. So this shady area is going to be appealing not just to the lions, also to a lot of the animals that want to get out of the midday heat. And so they could come straight into this area where, of course, these lioness will be laying in the shade, concealed and in the perfect spot. Now, Snazzy, you're wondering if buffalo horns have nerves in them and if it would hurt, if it would break. No, it shouldn't. It's theoretically, it's just keratin, and when I've ever had a look at a buffalo horn. However, there is, of course, the bony structures within that. So if they break that, then yes, it's probably going to hurt a little bit. But if they just chip or snap the outer layer, the keratin coating, then it shouldn't hurt at all. It'll be like biting off your fingernail, essentially, so you should feel no pain. But that's the theory around it anyways. I'm, of course, not a buffalo, and I don't have a set of horns, but the day that I do grow my first set of horns and I break it, I will let you know, I promise. But all is looking very relaxed out here. It's such a lovely day, and I'm worried because there's not a breath of wind right now, which means that this afternoon is going to be blowing a hurricane. The weather is a bit like the Eastern Cape here, or anywhere on the coast in South Africa. It's windy at one point during the day, either the morning or the afternoon, but luckily for us, we've got the most spectacular day upon us. It's quite a relief. I'd rather be prepared for the wind in the afternoon than have it first thing when you wake up. Christopher, you said that your brother has a sheep named Barbara. That is such a great name for a sheep. The day that I get a sheep, I'm also going to call it Barbara. That's most certainly going to happen. There's now the wonderful people who have come out on safari. They're going to listen to me talk about sheep's named Barbara. Let's talk about wildlife rather. It's going to get a bit awkward. Especially because they don't know me and my craziness. You know, these girls could still get up and they could still come wandering towards us. So we can't write that off just yet. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen right now. But maybe we'll be patient. I think what I might do is I might go do a quick tour around the marsh and see, while we've got the cooler weather, if there are any interesting birds. I did see a cuckoo just a moment ago, so I need to try and figure out which one it was. Looked like a juvenile, maybe a great spotted, but I'm not sure. Okay, so we'll leave these lioness and do a quick loop around the marsh and hopefully find some elephants chasing egrets. Scott, however, has got a standoff between 2 sister leopards. I wonder what's going to happen next.
We certainly do. It looks like Thandi over here's just moved a little bit under this bush. I'm wondering if she's going to continue moving. She's very, very close to us. It's so cool that these leopards are so relaxed with our presence, and absolutely fascinating that these two sisters are in the same sighting here. I wonder how it worked out, whether Thandi heard the duikers squealing. Duikers are prone to squeal when they get caught, and maybe ran onto the scene to investigate. And I also wonder where Not Barbara is. I'm looking forward to the fact that Taylor's going to get a sheep at some point in her life and call it Not Barbara or both. And good luck to Taylor on her plans for going and finding you some beautiful birds in and around the marshes. I'm absolutely astounded by this, and I cannot wait to see how things unfold. I'm really interested to see how much time Thandi invests at this spot, because Shadow is not going to budge. She is going to stay in that tree with that kill until it's finished. So I would assume Thandi to kind of know that. So I'm surprised Thandi's lurking around here, kind of like a hyena would. Shadow sadly popped her head onto another side of a branch. She will be keeping a beady eye on Thandi though, so she will probably keep it just like that, like we can see it now that we're having a view of Thandi. So cool that we've had two ridiculous mornings in a row with leopards. Yesterday it was Shadow, her youngster, and Tingana, and now these two sisters facing off at a kill. It doesn't get better than this. Yes, James Richards, you're correct. Shadow has had a very, very busy and family-orientated last few days, and she's fully in the Christmas spirit, touching in with lovers, sisters, you name it. And James, thanks for pointing out that this was in fact Thandi. Senzo also noticed that it wasn't the youngster. You clearly can see that I'm a little bit rusty when it comes to leopards, having spent a bit of time out of the sands. I don't know who's who. I can't tell an old leopard from a young. Where we are sitting right now, what a view we've got, and what a scene we've got unfolding. It simply doesn't get any better than this. I wonder where, and I've said this before, but I really do wonder where Shadow's daughter is. Look at her growling. I'm glad it's not us she's growling at with such fierce intent. Clearly not very impressed with her sister and her cheeky behavior, trying to pilfer a kill. Oof. But I love it. But we need an abbreviation if we're going to be mentioning her name a lot, like I've had to be doing this morning. To keep saying Not Barbara, it just doesn't quite add up. And we must remember that if any new viewers log on at any point in time, they'll think we've absolutely lost our marbles, which, to be honest, we probably have, but still, we don't want to give that away immediately and lose any other possible safarians. Okay, good stuff. Well, things seem to have calmed down here for now. We are certainly not going to be moving an inch. We are going to stay here for as long as we possibly can. And who knows, maybe we will get lucky and Thandi will give up on her ways, wanting to scavenge here, and take us back to her new den site, wherever that is, and give us a visual of her tiny little furball cub. So good prospects for the day, and for now we're going to be sending you across to Tristan to get an update on how he's getting along.
Well, Scotty, I'm having a far tougher morning than you are. I've got very little to show for our efforts this morning. We've had very few signs, no tracks, no nothing really to deal with. So I'm just coming to try and see if I can find this big herd of elephants. But how epic is that sighting, the two sisters together? I don't actually know of the last time or when the two sisters have been seen together, or whether or not this is something that's happened recently. As far as I know, the last time the two sisters were seen together on Wild Earth would be when they were cubs. So that's a pretty cool thing to see, and it's an amazing interaction. I'm also very intrigued as to where everybody else is, so where Not Barbara is, and where the little, well, the male tracks that Scott had that weren't too far from that area that were kind of heading in that direction, where those have ended up. So it's all kind of quite intriguing at this stage as to what's actually happening in the leopard world. The dynamics at the moment on Djuma are just absolutely astounding. It's been an incredible couple of days. To think that we've had 3 leopards yesterday, now 2 adult females together today, is just absolutely insane. And so it's why the Sabi Sands is always so highly rated when it comes to leopard sightings. Now, I spotted our ellies from very far away. They seem as though they've gone into this big block here. So I'm going to try and just get in and try and find them. It's probably going to take a bit of time to get to where they are, but hopefully we'll make a plan. I'm always hesitant to go into this block after we fell into a sinkhole the one day in this particular section, which was not very pleasant at all. So, Lady Starfire, you're asking, do leopards have the longest tail of all the big cats? So no, I think you'll find that cheetah's tail is longer than a leopard's. And a leopard probably, I would say, second with we'll find that cheetah's tail is the longest of all of them. Right, now the ellies are somewhere in this general vicinity. I've got to try and find them by negotiating my way through here. I should be able to catch up with them. I believe it's a beautiful big herd, so I wouldn't mind a bit of elephant action for the morning, just sitting and being amongst a whole bunch of ellies. There's nothing really better than doing that. Well, I suppose there is. Sitting with 2 leopards could be better, but elephants was a good second, that's for sure. Right, now while I try and get through this, I'm gonna see if I can find a nice easy path all the way through, given that we do have a roof on, and try and find these ellies. I believe Taylor McCurdy is doing a big loop of what I'm not quite sure, but she's doing a loop. Hopefully she's not gone loopy, and she'll be able to show you guys something of interest in the Mara.
Tristan, good luck with your elephant search. They're big, they're grey, sometimes they can look a little bit red, and they've got these white things that stick out underneath like a long hose that hangs off of the side of their face, just in case you haven't seen an elephant for some time. There's a quick description, Tristan, or sorry, Thumbelina. My bad. I sometimes get confused and I forget your name. I got excited. We turned around, actually I got not distracted. I got confused and forgot whereabouts in the marsh I was, and that I can't actually go that way around. So we just turned to have a quick link, and I don't know what they're looking at, because they were facing us, now they're facing the other way. So I just want to have a quick scan. I mean, it's possible that there could be some warthogs on the other side there. I do see some impala, but they're so far away. I don't know if that's what they'd be looking at. They can probably see something a little bit closer. Have you got something? Warthog. Ah. There is a warthog. I wonder if that's what they're watching. Manu, I wonder if that's not the side that we should maybe go on.
We should.
Manu says we should. Now, when Manu tells me to do something, I jump very quickly and I make sure that I do it. It does look like they're showing a bit of interest. Oh, no, it's right there. There's a warthog right there. Oh, my goodness, just to the left of that tree. I thought that... There's one, you can just see its tail swinging on the other side of that tree. It's walking straight towards the lions. I don't know if we're going to have time to set up an action broadcast. Oh my goodness, they're so close. They do have a big obstacle in the way though. I think it's realized that something's happened. Oh my goodness, look at them, they're going flat in the grass. Warthoggers, and realize there's a family of them too. Now these lions have got a much better chance. Running straight towards that lioness. This is about the 100th time that I've seen these lioness do this, where the warthogs are just a couple of meters away. There they're moving into the thicket, and those girls didn't make a move. I did have done this to me. Every no, they know something's up. I mean, I always say that warthogs are not necessarily the most intelligent creatures. Lions, you're not doing yourself any justice this morning. There was a perfect opportunity, and it's not like either of them were massive boars with big, sharp tusks. It looked like a female, or maybe they were two young males, but they weren't fully grown, that's for sure. Come on, girls. That was like walking past a buffet and just opening up the bain-maries and having a look inside and then closing them and turning back going, nah, that's not what I feel like today. Talk about being picky. I mean, I can't see why those lionesses didn't make an attempt there. I mean, yes, everything can be slightly deceiving. Those warthogs were maybe only 6 or 7 meters away from those girls. That was insane. They have the perfect cover, and those warthogs didn't know that they were there initially either. That is outrageous. Isn't nature amazing? There's also some ostrich in the top right corner, in case you're wondering what those moving lollipops were. They're not trees that have all of a sudden decided to migrate. It's a group of ostrich. Yeah, I can't believe that. I mean, that's exactly what I said would happen, is that you might find that the warthogs would be, or any of the animals would be attracted to the shade underneath these trees, and they came stomping on through, and those girls didn't even care. Well, they did, because they obviously put their ears back and they looked like they wanted to stalk. Were they hiding? Can you hear the jackals? It's about 3 or 4 jackal barking. It's very soft. Maybe you can hear it. It's in the far distance on the other side of this forest. I don't know where they are. I don't think... Oh, it could be, Manu. I think it is our friends. You know that? Yeah. It is. I think it's our young jackal pups that are yelping at the moment. That's the Olololo staff accommodation. No, they've stopped now. It was quite faint, but it was quite far away. So we're we must be about 500 or 600 meters away from that main road where the young jackal pups like to lay. This is that awkward forest that I was telling you about, that it's perfect to have young lion cubs or for lions to sit in the shade, but it's not great for us because we're so far away from everything. I wonder what got those young jackals so excited, but we did see them yapping about. Well, I've seen them yapping a few times. The most vocal, it's not the most vocal I've ever heard jackals, because in the Eastern Cape and Sabi, the blackback jackal used to let rip in the nights, but to hear that sort of bark, that yelping sound is quite cool. I haven't heard that too often. Ah, lions! I can't believe that. Again! That must be about the 7th or 8th time, if not even more, that they've done that to me. Where they've stalked animals and got right up close to them and then just gone, nah, not today. I mean, the breakfast ran right up towards you. I could hear that bacon sizzling, it was so close. Oh, sorry, Nikki, if you can't copy me. The comms are disappearing again. They're not so great. They're very crackly. I think she's looking at us going, yeah, did you guys see that? Did you see us fail miserably? I mean, how much more perfect could something like that be? I mean, they had everything on their side. Absolutely everything on their side. Silly, silly cats. Okay, well, we'll do a quick loop around. Maybe we'll go see what stirred those jackal about. We're not too far away. Tristan has finally managed to find an animal that kind of resembles an elephant.
Well, I don't know what else it could be that resembles an elephant, but there they all are. There's a whole bunch of them. Now, this little bull that you see in front is by no means a small animal. I would say he's probably easily around 12, 13, somewhere there, but he's not a small elephant. He's about the size of the car. But if you come out a little bit, you'll see behind him is a much larger elephant. So there's a big bull behind there. He's not an old bull, but he is very tall. He's got big shoulders and even nice tusks as well. So he's an incredibly large specimen, and hopefully he's going to come out into the open for us. He looks as though he is going to, but he's got, like I say, very tall shoulders. And sometimes you see this with elephants. So some of them are incredibly tall, others have really big bulky heads, and so it just depends on the sort of genetics. But he is going to be a magnificent individual. If you give him another 10 years, I think he's going to be really one of the largest boys we'll see out here. So really nice to have him around. But the whole herd is in here. It doesn't kind of, when we first got here, it didn't seem as though there were many of them around, but slowly but surely, as we're sitting, more and more elephants are exposing themselves, and we're starting to pick them up. Now they've come from a good swim and drink, and so now it's time to feed. Also today they won't have to worry about going to water nearly as much as they normally would, because they're going to get so much moisture out of the food with all the rain on the leaves and grass, and everything will be a lot more kind of water enriched. And so it's going to be a nice day for the Ellies. I'm sure they're thoroughly impressed with the fact that it has rained this morning and that it's nice and overcast. It's still humid, but at least it's not that baking sun that we had yesterday. So I think these guys are going to be very happy with life and will enjoy a good feed during the day. Now what I'm going to do, and a pole, because we don't really like the pole being around, so let's try and position ourselves a little bit differently. There's Ellies all over the place. I'm just going to kind of work out where we're going to stop so that we have our best view of them all. I think maybe if we go forward, Ferg, let's catch up and the rest of them can come with us. So first lady, there are quite a few differences between African and Asian elephants. You'll have a situation where I'll stop now and I can explain it to you, but African elephants are larger animals than the Asian elephants, so bigger in size, but you know, the males are much larger. The females are probably about the size of the males in the sort of Indian or Asian elephants. But then there's very distinct differences in a lot of their physiology. So they've got, you know, a situation where the ears are completely different. On a elephant bull, you'll find that the ears are, well, in an African elephant, not an elephant bull, on an African elephant you'll find that the ears are very sort of kind of round and then come down almost like the shape of Africa. I know it's a kind of cliche, but it is a clever way to kind of describe it, is that it comes down and it's much more rounded out and then longer on that bottom side. Then an Asian elephant will have a much smaller ear than what the African elephant does. Also, then if you come down on the trunk will have two little lobes on an African elephant, so it's almost like two little fingers on the end of their trunk, whereas the Asian elephant only has one on its trunk. And then around the forehead area, so just on top, that area there on our African elephants tends to be quite sort of smooth, whereas the Asian elephants get these kind of two big sort of rounded bone structure over the eyes and these bumps that almost form on the head. So those are kind of major differences that are easily, well, it makes it very easy to recognize one from the other. But the ears immediately is probably the way I would go. It's the quickest way to identify the difference between the two, because these guys have much larger ears than the Asian counterparts. But he is a really impressive individual. He's, like I say, still young. It's just looking at his body condition and kind of around his temples and places like that, and just his head size. He's probably, I would say, only in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. So he still potentially has 20 years of growth in him. Remember, elephants don't stop growing, so they just continue to grow. Their rate of growth slows down, but they continue to grow all the time, as do their tusks. And so he's going to be a seriously incredible specimen when he is 20 years from now. So we'll hopefully one day see him roaming